The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim IDRIS, in February directed police commissioners across the country to carry out a mop-up of illegal arms within their locality. Now, with a 21-day ultimatum, it was a window for voluntary surrender of weapons for, among other members of militia, vigilante groups, hunters, and private citizens who were in possession of illegal firearms. Well, the 21-day ultimatum is over, and we ask, how effective was this window in the firearms mop-up plan of the Nigeria Police Force? What is the response rate, and are there aversions to the plan? What will be the consequence for non-compliance? This will be our focus on Nigeria Today this Wednesday evening. My name is Kande Daniel. Welcome. With me in the studio to discuss is the Force Public Relations Officer, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Jimoh Moshood. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
How did we get here? Are we not guilty of having jettisoned the Firearms Act?
No. I will say we are not. Actually, you know, nothing is an offense under the law except what the law states to be an offense. And the law stating the offense, we call it state what are the procedure for dealing with an offender and what are the punishment for such an offense. And the Firearms Act is very explicit as it has to do with prohibitions of firearms and other weapons that are supposed not to be in possession of individuals, except for those personnel of security agencies such as the military, probably the police, the military, and other security and safety agencies that are under the law allowed to bear firearms. I want to make it abundantly clear that it's only the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that can grant such an agency to even bear firearms. And for individuals that are in possession of prohibited firearms, that's why the IGP have directed full enforcement of this Firearms Act, because the Act has been there from 1959, and actually it's been looked at, like we have the letter of 2004 and 2010. Chapter 28 was very, very clear that arms that have to do with rifles that are being like AK-47 rifle, even to pump actions, artillery weapons, and other weapons which can kill or maim are not allowed to be carried by private citizens. And you discover that in the recent past, vigilante groups, neighborhood watch, hunters, and equally militias, including herdsmen, have been bearing arms which have been used to commit offenses.
Yes, we're going to expatiate on that in a short while. When we attempt to list prohibited firearms, it sounds like all firearms. What is not prohibited?
It is very, very difficult to be able to get what is not prohibited, because even for those that are not under the classified prohibited firearms, people fashion now to locally made firearms now, which can even kill several people. So we are going outside those that are equally prohibited in the Prohibition Firearms Act to other weapons that can be modified or fabricated to kill. Because if you look at the Dane gun that are being carried by a hunter, those doesn't come under prohibited firearms. But for that, you have to have a license. And when you talk of personal firearms, which include muzzle loading firearms, those ones that you look for gunpowder and others and load. But in the recent past, we have discovered that people have modified this to the level of they firing AK-47 ammunitions. So then it comes under prohibited firearms. If the intention initially is personal firearm, but modified to fire ammunitions that can kill people, then it will come under prohibited. And other weapons that equally can be fashioned to cause mass death, is equally prohibited. Before you have explosive, you have bomb, which are conventional weapons. But nowadays you have the improvised explosive devices, which can cause death of people. So
they're equally destructive.
They are destructive, and this come under prohibited firearm also.
I would also like to know straight away before we go on with the discussion, what is the enforcement gap that led to the massive importation of firearms we've witnessed in the recent past?
Thank you so much. I wouldn't say there's enforcement gap. I would say law abiding. People largely become not want to be law abiding, because if you are law abiding, you know that there's restrictions under the law for you to bear firearms. So, but people go out of their way, maybe because of other consideration, to commit crime, to bring in this firearm. Then equally, like state actors, like maybe you say state government, local government, some of them don't know that some categories of firearms are actually prohibited. And when the announcement started, some state government and local government are willingly turning their own weapons and say, no, we don't know this fall under the category of firearm. Even before the directive of the Inspector General of Police for total enforcement of firearm acts and the mopping up of prohibited firearm in the wrong hands, some state government, I don't want to mention him, willingly turning the what we call the pump action gun, which they have acquired for their vigilante and neighborhood watch. There's no doubt that we have other phases of policing, such as the informal policing in the system, but that does not mean there should be firearms. Even for those who are conventional organizations that bear firearms, you discover that there's a limit to which firearm can prevent crime and criminalities. That the need to adopt strategy of crime prevention and control that will be apt, that will equally nip in the bond criminality than bearing a long rifle. Because when you bear long rifle on the street, even if a foreigner is coming to your country, it shows some certain sense of how the country is itself. And that is why
it leads me actually to asking, in terms of timing and intentions, what does the police intend to achieve with this mop-up exercise?
Thank you so much. We intend to achieve a lot, because if you look at the rate of criminality in the country, it's not that they are on the increase, but you have some specific crime. Like previously in Nigeria, you have issue of bank robbery, you have people attacking cash in transit and others, and those are becoming things of the past now. You have the issue of insurgency, which we are equally raking in, but of recent we have issue of elders and farmer classes, and the source of this is that people have at their beacon prohibited firearms, which because of the position we have found ourselves in the country, in Nigeria, and the location of the country, you discover that other regions that have into problem, like the Central African Republic, have been into civil war for a very long period of time. You take the armed conflict in Libya, for example, and other areas that surround the country, even Nigeria and others. So it is quite easy for you, like even the kidnappers, the armed robbers, and the others. Some of them buy firearms for less than 50,000 naira, especially AK-47 rifle. Some were arrested and they confessed to be selling ammunition for about 400 to 500 naira per each ammunition. So when you have crisis in all this region that surround the country, the tendency of those arms splitting into the country, and that is why there's a need for us to continue to work together with that security agency.
ACP, the picture is a bit frightening actually, which I believe is one of the reasons why this exercise was initiated. Do you know, or at least have an idea of how much of arms and ammunition we have in the hands of individuals in the country? If you know, then you would know when you have done a good job of mopping up. If you don't, you wouldn't be able to assess the exercise. No,
but it would be difficult for anybody to tell you this is the actual number.
Have an idea?
No. You know, when you roll out a figure or a data, it should be an empirical data that anybody can access and either prove it right or disprove it with their own data equally. And it could equally either be frightening or it could be counterproductive. But the most important thing is to get them off the wrong hand. As we speak, the Inspector General of Police, IGP IDRIS, MPM MNI, directed the formations of the task team at the force headquarters level and equally at the state command level. At the level of the force headquarters, for issue of other activities of the force that came up, yesterday we want to showcase what we have recovered at the level of the force headquarters, because it goes into about 200 of those prohibited firearms that people have torn in, and those ones we have recovered from kidnappers, from armed robbers, from car snatchers, from cattle rustlers and the likes. We're equally to be showcased, and definitely we are going to do that before the week runs out. Equally at the command, the various commands have been doing their own. The FCT are definitely they did their own today. Other commands are equally telling the public for them to see what we have recovered. So to have a figure and rule out a figure is difficult now until when the exercise is completed. So as we go into the exercise, we'll be able to have from state to state what have they been able to recover from wrong hands. But the expiration of the grace period is over. So anybody that is bearing them now is going to be treated as a criminal, because we equally impress it on the state government and the local government and other authorities that have guards, that have neighborhood watch, that have vigilante under their control, and they issue firearms to them to know that they are doing the wrong thing. And
what about people who have licenses? How do you treat their case in this exercise?
Thank you so much. We make it part of the press release, because when we did the broadcast, the Inspection General directed that it should be placed. We did an advert in 6 national daily paper. Then we equally run jingles on the NT for quite some time. So, and it is part of it that no license will be recognized or will be issued in respect of prohibited firearms. But for those in the past, like the pump action gun, who have obtained the license wrongly, because we discover a lot of shady deals where people who will give you the license will equally be the one that will procure the commercially pump action for you, that it is completely wrong. And when you surrender, we look at the circumstances for which you obtained the license, because licenses have been stopped for more than a decade now. In respect of even giving to people that carry personal firearm. License is for personal firearm, it's not for prohibited firearms. It's only the President and Commander-in-Chief on the recommendations of the Inspector General of Police that can issue license for prohibited firearm for any individual. Then people who have gotten it unknowingly and voluntarily surrender, we equally investigate if such a firearm have been used to commit any crime in the recent past. If there's nothing attached to it, then they are free. But where such a firearm have been used to commit crime or criminality in the past, and it show later in our investigation, then the person have the case to answer.
Okay, ACP will continue in a moment. You are on to Nigeria Today, and we have been looking at the police arms recovery ultimatum. We'll take a break to feel the pulse of Nigerians on this matter. We'll be right back.
The rate at which crime is in this country, at least if everybody can cooperate with them and submit their firearms, I think it will curtail the rate of criminality in the country.
These illegal arms is not something that can just be tackled overnight. I'm aware that an armed robber was arrested. What do you call him? Somebody along Kaduna-Abuja Expressway, a young man of 21 years. What he was saying, that the people that are bringing these weapons for them, they're from Libya. They are bringing these weapons into this country. So it's not something that it's a target anyway for some people to give us their own weapons, but not everybody.
With the recent happenings in around Nigeria, it's a good one. But the problem we have is, it's easy to be said than done.
I think it's a good development so that people will not use those people who illegally acquire this to cause mayhem or to ring election in their favor, especially when 2019 is at hand.
Welcome back. It's still Nigeria Today, and we're looking at the police arms recovery ultimatum. And still with me is ACP Jimo Moshood, the PPRO. ACP, before we took the break, well, you heard what the respondents were saying.
Yes,
we'll take a cue from that. One of them said, easier said than done. And before we went on break, you began to report on the extent of success of this. What exactly is the public response to this matter in terms of compliance?
Thank you so much. I would say largely people have been complying. The Nigerian, to say the Nigerian are good people, when you do something good, they appreciate, like you've seen what they have said, and you do something that is not too good, they call it, draw your attention to it. Actually, some people have called for extension of the period, and we said no, 21 days is a reasonable period for you to be able to hand over wherever you are in this country. You can travel to any part of the country and hand over this firearm. So there's no any extension that was contemplated in the first place, and no extension was granted. So the people have been complying, and the Commissioner of Police across the country have been reporting situation report, giving situation report to the Inspector General of Police on the level of compliance. And like I said earlier on, each command have been showcasing those things they have recovered. And you know, this is the period of political activities ranging on, and we arrested in the in not too long ago thugs and miscreants from some states of the Federation who are in possession of prohibited firearms, who we are investigating as we speak. So the level of compliance has been very, very impressive. So
how do we know that you're not getting carried away by what you consider to be an impressive level of compliance? What are your challenges, for example?
Yeah, thank you so much. For now, everything has been smooth, but that does not mean there's no one or two hiccup. Like I said, some people are calling for extension of the period, which is not contemplated and not granted. Everybody within the time limit to return the firearm in their possession. But we have a situation whereby those who may have 2 or 3 might surrender 1 and still keep on to the 2, and that is why at the expiration of the ultimatum, the Inspector General of Police have directed all Commissioner of Police in the command and the Assistant Inspector General of Police to now proceed and enter any premises where it is believed that prohibited firearm is being kept, and anybody found in possession are to be prosecuted. So there are quite some certain unforeseen challenges that will come up as the exercise goes on, because we are on the level of full enforcement now. Those grace period are the period that people are allowed to turn in voluntarily, but these are the period now that you cordon and search any premises where you suspected that any firearms people are in possession of prohibited firearm. Or probably members of the public are equally been giving us information to those that they suspect handling or keeping or using prohibited firearm, because probably in the neighborhood there's some people that are in the habit of bringing out even this firearm to threaten and their neighbors and cause
for how long do you intend that this search will continue?
It will continue as long as we are able to recover the indefinitely, until we are able to recover the last weapon that is in wrong hand in the country.
Still on the note of easier said than done, there could be some gray areas. When you consider the list that you gave, vigilante groups, neighborhood watch groups, hunters, and others, if they're not carrying arms, if vigilante group members and neighborhood watches are not carrying arms, how are they protected and how do they carry out their missions?
Thank you so much. I know you are going to come into that. Even the police duty will carry out. Those who carry out core police duty are those that bear firearms. It's not every operation that you need firearms. It's not. Because if you have a vigilante set up now, they have to work with the divisional police officer who will attach police personnel to them, like 3, to ensure that they have the widespread.
Do we have enough police?
Yes, so we do. You know, when you talk about there's no any force in the world that have the desired number at a specific time, but you make judicious use of the number you have at the moment to be able to have on your palm firm grip on security situation in your area of jurisdiction. Your area of responsibility at a point in time. So how you do your deployment is what matters. You can take 2 police personnel to police the streets around the NTA if they are properly briefed and they know what they are looking for. Your strategy in crime prevention determines how you are going to go about ensuring that the people are safe in the neighborhood. If you deploy a wrong strategy, even if you pump in where you need 3 to 4 policemen, even if you pump in 10 or 12, you still will not get the desired result. So it's not every police operation that even demand the issue of carrying firearms in the first instance. Then the misuse are there. When you harm vigilante, there's tendency that even the vigilante can outgrow the people that harm them and take laws into their hand, and they can unseat anybody within the area they operate. So, and that is why when you have vigilante, you get them registered, we provide them we get their biodata and get everything for us to know about them. Then the divisional police officer work with them and ensure that they are in position and they get information and get it across to the police, but not becoming, because the sense of every person that want to enter vigilante is the authority that is attached to it, and they don't see it as a service. They see it as something.
Have you thought about the hunter in this matter?
The hunters, traditionally have muzzle loading firearms, which is personal firearm, for which they're supposed to get a license. These are kind of category of firearms that doesn't come under prohibited firearms. But we don't want people to use the guise of being an hunter and begin to carry double barrel. Carry a pump action gun to go for hunting. It's completely wrong. Pump action guns are prohibited firearms. The muzzle loading firearms are personal firearms, which they can carry.
ACP, some people, some members of the public have been wondering, in this list that you issued, we don't see high-profile politicians.
If you say high-profile politician, we have mentioned the category of people. When you mention militias, you mention political talks, you mention the vigilante group, you enter. Anybody and every Nigerian, high-profile politician are equally Nigerians, including every Nigerian that is in possession of such a firearm are expected to return them. And those who doesn't return them will search their premises and recover them and charge them to court. So the law has no respect for whether you are high or low, whether you are high profile politician or low profile politician or middle profile politician.
An offender is an offender.
An offender is an offender.
A short while ago you said in passing that for about 10 years, more than a decade, we didn't have any licenses issued for firearms. So how do you expect people to have coped during that period?
No, the licenses, what I mean is...
How do we make up for that lapse of 10 years without licensing?
No, we can't grant you license. Since the period of insurgency, the police have rescinded the issuance of a license to anybody, whether prohibited or otherwise.
Don't I have a right to defend myself?
You have the right of self-defense.
So I should be able to get a license?
No. You can't get for prohibited firearms. If it is mostly loading firearms or personal firearms, who doesn't come under the category of prohibited firearms, you can obtain a license. But what we are saying in essence is that it's not even firearms that can defend you. You have the right of self-defense, no doubt, and that your right of self-defense should be prompt. If you come under attack, you have the right to save your life and probably repel the attack, but not with firearms. And that will
be difficult for me, ACP. Okay, I'll ask you one more question. We'll probably wind down with that. The ultimatum has passed, but when this order was issued, I know you are aware that a segment of the population perceived it as an attempt to disarm them and make them more vulnerable. What do you have to say about that?
It's completely wrong for them to have that notion. We have seen some social media reports that are saying that the intention is to disarm some people from certain segment of the society or from certain region of the country. It is wrong. Anybody behind prohibited firearms doesn't comply with the law, and the essence is to enforce the law, which is the Firearms Act. For those group of individuals, they can approach the National Assembly, and the National Assembly, we don't make the law. It's not the police that make the law. The law are made by the legislature. They can approach the legislature and look for a way to inculcate or probably to impress it on the legislature to sort of put in what is their request. If the legislature in their what they call it, deem it fit to inculcate that or probably to put it on board, then so be it. We don't make the law. And we enforce the law. So since we enforce the law, we have to enforce the law in totality.
All right, our time is almost up. I want you to end with an emphatic concluding statement on the way forward now that the ultimatum has elapsed.
The emphatic statement is that the Firearms Act is going to be enforced in fullest, and we are in the enforcement stage now, and there's not going to be respect for anybody that disobeys the law. The law is respected of nobody. Everybody is to comply and be subject of the same law. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
ACP Jimo Moshood, Police Public Relations Officer from the police headquarters. They're telling us about the reasons and the action from here going forward concerning the mop-up action of illegal firearms across the country. That's been it on Nigeria Today. Thank you for watching. My name is Kande Daniel.